G'day. If you're considering getting into a larger aircraft, say 35cc petrol powered model or a 60cc, I've put together a couple of airborne combinations with leads, all Futaba battery pack, switch harness and servo selections. So something like this Seagull Nemesis, which is a ARF designed for 25 to 35cc, and whilst it is a racing plane, essentially this is a sport scale model, which in Australia we race with 35cc petrol and also 60cc. Now the servos in this one are Futaba S3001s, which are a ball race analog PWM, and if I was going to put new servos in, I would just use the U400s. They're the new replacement for the S3072 standard digitals, which I've been flying in this Philcraft classic pattern design. Back in 1971, Craft was the gun radio, and a KPS 15 was the gun servo. Used to sell for about $50 and put out about 3.5 kilos of torque. Now I was a kid back then. I started flying in 71, and the only thing that I can see has changed is a bit more carbon dioxide floating around the atmosphere, and these days we put a lot more power into the aeroplanes. The other thing that's changed is that it almost seems every manufacturer thinks everyone wants to fly IMAC, hence you've got big control surfaces and really extreme throws. So if you're not into that, I'm not. There's actually a free article available on this website, how to tone down the throws on that RV8 using AFR. So back to servos. That's my ugly stick, built off the original Craft Systems plan, 3.5 kilogram torque servos. That's got a gear door sequencer of course, and my Texan, which won the Adelaide Air Races in 2011, and that also uses 3.5 kilogram servos with a 20cc OS 120AX. And back to the Dragonfly, it's a replica of course, and this has S3072 servos, which are just brilliant in this model, and just with the OS 75 in it, it's going a lot harder than what the original did. I actually propped it up once with a top float 11.7 at 12,000, and you know what, it's better today with modern power. Anyway, those 3072s are now in my 60cc powered Nemesis. As you can see, I shoehorned a couple of canisters in there. By the way, it's a twin cylinder, and once you get to 60cc, that is a consideration. The U400 servos are going into my cassette, which has got an OS GT 60cc single cylinder big banger. The difference between a single and a twin is at idle, a single bangs around a lot more, which is hard on gear trains. Mode, the cassette was good for about 220, about 250 in a 45-degree dive to the start line, and that 6.5 kilogram torque rating has been more than adequate. So getting back to something else like the Spitfire here, I would no problem suggest putting U400s into that, although it's a scratch-built model by my father, and I would just put the best equipment I could get into that. Mr. Smoothie here, this has a Moki 60cc twin-cylinder inline engine, which is very smooth. And this is just on control surface deflection. This is a 250 km an hour aeroplane. We don't move the control surfaces that much. That's how much flap I'd use for landing. By the way, this thing blows the doors off over 250 k's. So another aeroplane up there, that's the Miles Speedhawk, which has got a DA85. And I'm still tossing up what I'd put in that, but probably U501s. So back to scale aerobatics. Back when that was new in the late 80s, this is my 1/3 scale Sukhoi with an OS 74. That had JR4721s, which are about an 8 or 9 kilogram torque servo, and that did heaps of flying, and that was more than enough servo power for that application. So what's changed today? If you just want to fly the classic pattern style of manoeuvres, which I'm interested in, I would not need to put anything more than that in it. Extra 300 was a glass and foam model built professionally 20 plus years ago, if not more, and servo power wasn't what it was today, but I won't be putting two. I'll just find a Futaba that's grunty enough. I would have thought a 16 or 20 would be heaps for my application. So that amount of elevator throw there, that's getting up in IMAC territory for all that freestyle stuff, so I'm not really, won't be doing that, not with this aeroplane. Besides, I'd have to learn how to do it first. I remember competing against that laser. That was 62 powered Zenoa. Boy, they used to shake. But 9 kilo servos, no problem. So for a 60cc big banger, this is the Futaba servo I would put in, no problem at all. just based on my own experience. It's got a DA50 and a sundowner. That was the OS GT55 in the Nemesis that Seagull built for the OS GT55. That's a 3W on methanol and a Seagull Sparrowhawk. There it is. That was at a race when all the Seagull people that own Seagull came out. Mine was a bit fast for the wheel span, so I had to beef them up. And there she is hanging up. This is where all my racing aircraft go. It's a Miss Susie. It's an OS 62 with retracts. That's a Mugull, that's a Seagull one with a OS 200 four banger. So getting back to the Spitfire, if I was going to reservo that, I'd just put those A301s, they're a nice servo, and $77 each. It's really not a lot of money in an aeroplane that you really value. But of course, the more you spend, they're just better. So if you're going to upgrade to bigger aircraft, buy the more expensive ones first if you can. So for sport and sport scale flying, I wouldn't have any hesitation punting any of the aircraft I've shown you on this video through these classic pattern manoeuvres. That's I think the 71 pattern, which is about when I first started flying, and yes, I still have the t-shirt. Today I'm flying Futaba, and air racing, even just racing these scale ARFs, is competition flying sensors out equipment. Cheers.